The last race of the season for 2019, last race of the series, I should say. This is number 9 of 9. So I'm gonna go warm up, pre-ride, and calm the jitters. So pretty excited about tonight, and we'll hoping the thunderstorms stay far away. From the trail warm up, we got a short 7-mile loop today. So 2 loops, should be about 14 miles. So far, really fast and flowy. One little rock garden so far, mini uphill. I'm only 2.6 miles in, so oh, here's another hill. "15 minutes to go time. Got to pre-ride the whole thing. So rain's starting to come down, just really faint, really comfortable. So if it doesn't get any heavier than this, or even a little heavier, it wouldn't be a big deal. I did go ahead and put my front fender on, anticipating the potential for some, feeling pretty good. Did all my ritual. One thing I don't think I've mentioned in any of my videos that I've been doing for part of the season is the Breathe Right, or the generic version of it, nasal strips. And I've used these on and off over the years, and it does help depending on, you know, your anatomy. So anyway, I will update you after the race. We're going to go in about 10-12 minutes, so stand by. Oh, great night. So looks like I finished 3rd out of the group today, so managed to stay with the lead group, and in the sprint I kept my 3rd place, and that gives me 1st place overall in my category. So heading to get some t-shirts for the kids, and there's an after party at the brewery. I'll talk more about this whole season and what I think made the difference, but feel blessed and felt strong. Whew, finding parking's the tricky thing with an expensive bike. Had to stow it inside, but headed to the brewery. This is River City Brewery in Spokane for our after party.
Bottle of wine and a growler.
I'll take a wine.
Oh, you get both.
Oh, I get both?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Hey, just so you guys know, the growlers just come empty. There's no filling or anything.
Can I put the wine in it?
Fill it with your wine. And last but not least, bring
Anyway, got a bottle of wine and a growler. So down to, had my IPA and my burger and fries, and calling it a day. No postscript on the Wednesday night series for this year, race number 9. And yeah, what a series, what a night. And I am thrilled just how this all played out, and I couldn't have asked for a better ending. I did all 9 races, and in the middle of that I did the 24-hour race, which I've also talked about. I battled through a little bit of bronchitis early in the season, and then the knee pain. And then what was nice is these last few races I had resolved just about every issue. Thankfully the bike was great and performed fully up to expectations. Tonight's race went well, as I mentioned that after the race there. And again, it was a group of us tonight. Actually, there was a big turnout, so it was a nice field. So we're all going along, and it was a shorter course, but fast and flowy with some rock gardens and a little over 800 feet of climbing. Like I said, 7.5 mile loops. And so I did get to pre-ride it, which this was the first night that I've ever been able to do the full loop to warm up. I got there early enough for that, so I saw, just gently pedaled that, and then got in there, and I stayed kind of in that group with the front 3, 4, exchanged a little bit. It got a little rough in trying to stay with that lead group a few times as we were catching up, especially on the second loop. We were starting to pass people. They have, again, 2 loops, and so they start the one-lappers after us, and so that second loop we often start to pass some of the, because there's kids even, they're riding with parents, and you got some of the youth and slower riders, which is awesome that they're out there. So we try to be as courteous as possible and get around them. It's not a big deal, but what happens is that if you're trying to get a group of 4 or 5 riders to pass on these mountain bike trails, you could end up where those people you're with get around someone, but then you could lose the ability to pass because of the trail narrowing or something like that. You also want to be right up close so you can get around them with the group that you're drafting with. And thankfully I was able to get around along with the rest of the group. But a couple of times I had to work really hard to bridge that gap, so I was right up with them to get around these riders. So I would say on the first lap it seemed like we were really pacing a little bit better. It felt intense at the beginning, as it always does, and then it felt like we kind of settled in and everybody was just kind of tracking together. I felt, and going into the second lap, it felt harder as fatigue starts to set in a little bit, but it was also, I think, because we were encountering these passing situations where you start to get in a rhythm, and then all of a sudden you've got to close a gap and then get around some slower riders. I realized that I was able, so tonight I needed to be in the top 5 probably, maybe even the top 6 to get enough points to be able to win the series overall for the 50 plus category in men's. And I was in 3rd and 4th for most of the night tonight, and I ended up actually at one point I was probably in 5th because we were all together near the beginning. So I knew where I needed to be, I knew the people I needed to be with, and I was able to get up and stay with them. And trying to think if there was a couple of things, a little bit of the rain that started up, which was fine and nice. It did make a little slick on some of the rocks at first, but things dried out quickly. Didn't rain very long, and ended up having sunshine near the end. And I guess I'll just say the last part with the sprint, again, it was when you're with a group of riders and you're all in the same category and you've got a finish line and a long straightaway. I had strategized that I was going to lock out my rear suspension again, which I did, my rear shock, and I need the section to do that. There were at that point just 2 ahead of me in my category, and then the gal who's in the 40 plus, she was just ahead of me. So it was 3 riders ahead of me, pretty much all in a row, and we hit that straight away. And I saw the 2 guys, which was Bruce and Sean, start to crank whatever they had left in their legs, and they were Sean was trying to pass Bruce, but they were really neck and neck. And then I started to pull up, and I felt really gassed. I mean, I didn't know what I had, and I just started to give it everything I could, and I actually started to gain on them. I think at the end of the night, I mean, I really realized it's like, what do you put yourself through for what reason? I probably couldn't have gotten in front of Bruce, and probably not even Sean, but if I had started to sprint earlier, I thought, well, maybe I could have caught him and snuck across that line. You're always like, we were literally fractions of a second where we all crossed the line, 1, 2, 3. When we looked at the results, it all showed that we had the exact same time to the 10th of a second. And but it does track who does get there first, and so it showed identical times. I did pass the gal she's just been amazing this season, Anne, and she we laughed about it after, because she saw me right at that last minute slipping by her on the right. Oh, and what was also going on is that as we're sprinting to the finish line, there was like a mom and a young girl. I think it was a mom and a girl. They were, in the race for one-lappers, and I went right. And again, I I will close that gap. Anyway, I felt great just to be all that close, and so 50 plus. I was the leader, points leader for the series, and got this growler with the custom printing on it, just like the t-shirts, and also somewhere here's a bottle of, looks like Prosecco Vino. So I think that's sparkling, but it was great to be recognized, and it's just a personal accomplishment. I have talked a lot about what I do already in some of these videos, and I think what made the difference was my training programs. For my weak point is actually my respiration system. In the past, I used to get almost like an asthmatic kind of wheeze when I would try to keep up with these really fast riders, and I would just literally have to slow down. And I didn't experience that this year. I've learned how to breathe very intentionally. I think that's where the ketosis really helps. I do know that I have more oxygen efficiency when I'm in keto adapted, but it's a hybrid, as I've mentioned already. I'm using carbohydrates as well as the ketones. So, and that's endogenous ketones mostly. I do supplement a little bit with ketones, but I am burning both carbohydrates and ketones, aka fats, when I'm going into these races. But the respiratory herbs, and supplements. So I was using N-acetylcysteine, and that's an amino acid in such a form that's very efficiently taken up. The lungs use a lot of that. And I've seen it work in improving my respiration. I was also taking a supplement called Respiratory EZ, which is a combination of herbs to help the lungs. It's kind of an asthmatic formula, actually. It's got things like lobelia and a few other things. I appreciate you following this for the series. If you're coming across this video and you like these, a thumbs up is nice to see, and comments, questions, and stay tuned, I should say, for more videos in the near future for upcoming races that I hope to be doing.